Hello there. I found this really neat video that this one YouTube user that I follow did recently. It's on dialects and sorry about that. It's on dialects and language learning. Um, he said that, well, he explained that what if you're studying a language for a while and then you come across a native speaker of that language and say the dialect of the language you're not familiar with. Like, say the dialect that you've been learning is the standard dialect for that language, and in other parts of the country that the language is well known in, well spoken in, I should say. They speak the other dialect over the dialect that you learned. Like, for instance, say you're learning Albanian, and you know you're learning standard Albanian, and as you know from my other video, there are two main dialects of Albanian, and the majority of Albanian language books that you would find use standard Albanian. So if you're just learning Albanian, you're learning standard Albanian, and then say you come across someone from another part of Albania in which the dialect is very different from standard Albanian. It's still the same language, but pronunciation's different, maybe, and stuff like that. This is how I would take dialects. Dialects are very important, but make sure that you are very careful with them. Like, for instance, if you're just learning a language just to learn it, maybe because you love the language, or because you have some people who in your community whose native tongue is that language, you can learn different. You can learn the actual language, and if you want to or not, you could learn the dialect depending on where they were from, when they, stuff from their native country. But if you're going to a country, make sure the region that you're going to doesn't have a specific dialect. Like, take Albania, for instance. Albanian, for example, there are two main dialects of Albania. There's I forget the names of them, but there are two main dialects. One dialect is in the northern Albanian, and the other dialect is in the southern Albanian. Even though one is kind of dominant over the other, as far as one is known as standard Albanian, the Albanian you'll typically see, there you might come across the other dialect. Like, I think with Albanian, I might be wrong with this, but I think the northern dialect is the most common standard Albanian, and the southern dialect isn't. I might be wrong on that. So, like, say you learn the dominant dialect of Albanian, and you come across someone who doesn't speak that dialect. Same language, but different dialects with pronunciation, and maybe words are different, I don't know. But of course pronunciation can be definitely different. What would you do? Well, that's why it's good to at least familiarize yourself with these different dialects. Like, you don't have to intensively learn these dialects. The only suggestion that I would say, if you want to learn a specific dialect intensively, is if you, say, know someone from that region. Like, for instance, if I had an Albanian friend who was originally from southern Albania, then I would learn the dialect of southern Albania so I can communicate with him. Um, you know, and it's say you're traveling to Albania, when you're going in the north, you learn the northern dialect, stuff like that. Dialects, like that would only be the time where I would say it's kind of important to know that. But other than that, it is good to familiarize yourself in any language, not just the language that I specifically mentioned, but in any language, that if there is a dialect, to see if you can at least look at that too, instead of like the regular language you're learning, because it will open up your eyes to see that the language can be spoken differently in a different way than the standard way. And if you do come across someone who speaks that language and they don't speak the dialect that you have been taught, then you might run into some problems. So I would recommend to at least see if your foreign language has any dialects, and to try to learn a little bit here and there. Like, you don't have to go all crazy unless you want to, but I would recommend that you look at some dialects here and there.